We're live. Hello, everybody. We are here with Kate Bateman and Christy from Christy Reads a Lot, and I'm very, very excited. Christy and I are huge fans, so we're very excited to talk to you.
Yay! Thanks for having me on.
And what's your cute dog in the background?
Monty is. Yes.
Oh, he got
up. He's going to the bed. Oh, very photogenic, Monty. That's perfect timing. Well done.
So cute. All right. We are going to start off by chatting first what our favorite book of Kate's is, and then she will share her favorite book that she's written. Christy, do you have one? Do you want to share first?
Sure. So I have a couple. I couldn't choose one, but I really love her newest series, Ruthless Rivals. So I love both of the books in that. And then I also just read The Devil to Pay, the one you did with your indies, and I loved that, Italy, 1400s. I loved that one.
That was crazy. That was the first book I ever wrote before I even kind of thought I'd get published. And
I love it.
Knowing that it was completely unsaleable in terms of, time period or anything, because I think I just read Laura Kinsale's. She's done what's the one with Allegretto? Oh my gosh, Shadowheart or something. She does some really dark medievals, and I wanted more and I couldn't find them. And I was like, well, why not just write one and see what happens? So that's where that came from.
Yeah, I loved that one.
Yeah, that was
fun. Because the grumpy mercenary hero, and she needed him to come into some people for her, so much adventure and action.
Well, you can do a lot more in the medieval times than you can in the Regency. I can kill people in horrible ways quite really.
Right. Yeah. That's why I was their lives are in danger every other day. I was telling my husband when I was reading that, I was like it was such high stakes. Every day was dangerous in Italy in the Renaissance.
Well, I mean, if you the truth, I mean, you tamed it down from what really was happening. I mean, the Borgias and the Medicis were literally killing each other left, right, and centre. So I mean, it was kind of true to life. But it is a bit overwrought, that one, but in a great kind of old school.
It was fun. Yeah.
I have to read that one. I think it's publishing is missing out on such a fun time period because they're so focused on London Regency, but I'm there's so much more that you could be getting, and I just I'm going with what's trendy right now, which is fine.
But it is weird that we're so. I mean, especially traditional publishing is very fixated on the Regency is literally 8 years. It's ridiculous.
Right.
So I mean, it was the whole rest of history. So that first series of mine, The Secrets and Spies, was more Napoleonic. It's Regency, but in other countries, so France and Spain and places. But you're right. I was talking to Kerry Gumburn the other day, and we were saying that we would both love to do old school Roman gladiators.
Yes,
give us.
I would read that.
I want to do Pompeii or something. She wanted to do gladiators. I think that would be so much fun. But maybe, I don't know, maybe not a trad one. Maybe I'll have to do an indie book for that. But I just like that idea of it. It'd be great fun, wouldn't it? You could
I would read that.
The gladiators are so fun. I would love that. But also one of my favorites of yours, I recently read it because I am a huge Mummy fan. And so what was it? The Promise of a Kiss was so good. And I was it's giving me all the Mummy vibes I want. We're in Egypt. We got a cursed artifact and they're chasing after people. It's so good.
That was definitely an inspiration, I have to say, when I'd seen that kind of the Mummy vibe. And there's one other book. There's a couple set in Egypt. There's Connie Brockway does As You Desire, which is one of my favorite historicals ever, which is and Loretta Chase did one called, oh gosh, is it Mr. Impossible?
Mr. Impossible, yeah.
That's set in Egypt, and the girl is the genius and the brother's the idiot and getting all the credit. And I just like the idea of a slightly different twist on a place. And that was only a novella, so that's the least steamy book I've ever written. It's just the novella. Maybe I keep getting so many people say, oh, we really want a full-on sex scene, expand it into a full book, give us that epilogue or something. So maybe I will, maybe I'll do maybe. Okay. It's fun. They are two of my favorite characters. Harry is one of my favorite heroes, I have to say. He's so naughty.
It was so good.
And speaking of writing more, I was going to ask you if you were going to ever write more I read something from your newsletter a year or two ago. It was A Midnight Clear.
Yeah.
Were you ever going to write more of that, the Russian?
The Russian, yeah. Well, I did a different one, which that was also in an anthology, which is called Midsummer Night's Kiss, that I've just cover for that might come out. But no, I quite like that idea. That was quite a good, because that's only 3,000 words. That was for a tiny anthology. I might. That was intriguing. The Russian Princess kind of came out in Princess and the Rogue. That's sort of where that developed into.
Right.
There you go. There we are.
Right.
Perfect product placement.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was quite a nice dynamic. That's the kind of best friends, brothers, sisters.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
And the old my enemies to lovers trope is my fallback. Will die on that.
I was gonna say, I think everyone I've read by you so far has been an enemies to lovers.
What is this? I mean, this whole series. Yeah, I mean, Ruthless Rivals series is exactly that, right? And I've just handed in the last one of that series. That's called Wicked Game. That is literally just got handed in, so that will be out very early next year. I've just seen the cover, and it's gorgeous. It's so good.
Oh,
yay!
Cover looks like a Lisa Kleypas cover from ages ago. It's like a midnight garden with like, oh, it's so good. Anyway, next week I will show that.
okay.
So that's that series done. That's Ruthless Rivals series done, and then I'm just pitching a new series. I hope my publishers will like. So,
can you tell us who book 3 is about? Or are you gonna?
Oh yeah, that's Morgan and Harriet. So those are the last. Okay. So that's the third, the brother. And the cousin, who is the map maker, and he's the sailor. He's been off to sailor, and yeah, it's they're a lot of fun. Classic again, still enemies to lovers. They have a bet. She bets him because she knows she wants him to come back alive from the wars because she knows he's she loves to have him, loves to hate him basically. And the life would be really boring without him. So she bets him he can't come back alive because he knows the one thing he will do is just to spite her. He'll stay alive and come back. And he says, well, if I do, I get 3 kisses. And so she agrees. And so that's the setup. And then she's really stupidly not said where, either geographically or physically, she's going to get the kisses. When he comes back, he's like, right, okay, you owe me 3 kisses. And that's the whole setup for the book. So yeah, it's quite
fun. I can't wait.
Oh, that's so fun. I like how... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I literally just finished book 2 of the Ruthless Rivals yesterday. It was so good, and I like how the heroines all have a different thing that they really like. So in the first one, she was really into archaeology stuff like that, and in the second one, it's animals, and I thought that was super fun. And she's got her bear, and I was like, this is so fun.
Well, I think I had a bit of a sort of black and white movies moment where I thought, okay, that one of our dinosaurs is missing, and then bringing up baby and all those kind of, and the bringing up baby is ridiculous. They're chasing this leopard through the woods. That would be really quite funny to do, but I'll make it a bear. And yeah, my girls all have cool skills. So I like they're code breakers and jaw thieves, and they have something that makes them kind of interesting and different. So yeah, so the new one, Harriet's a map maker. So there's a lot of kind of map making, getting lost puns, and that kind of stuff going on. So.
And now is the cover, I'm assuming, because they're kind of going on the trend of away from historical covers. Is the third book still?
It matches. It's a garden. It's a couple in a garden. It's a kind of nighttime garden.
That makes me happy.
Good. I've been pretty happy with my chesty man boob covers so far. Yeah.
Do you get a say in your covers, or?
I get some feedback. I mean, it's with a traditional house, it's usually this is what we're thinking, and what do you think? And you get a few options. And sometimes, like the first one, second one. No, what's the second one called?
A daring.
That she had the wrong hair because she's redhead, and she came back with brown hair. So I told them to change that. You can tweak some stuff.
Okay.
I mean, they're not the most historically accurate. None of the dresses are remotely like Regency, but who cares?
They're gorgeous.
They're big, flowy, frothy dresses, so they're fantastic. So, yeah, if you look at them too hard, they don't pass historical accuracy tests. But nobody cares. They're gorgeous. They're gorgeous.
Yeah.
This comment's really funny, though. We were just talking about this before we went live about how we all have very similar shelves behind us.
I know, look, we've all got our lovely historical. I've got my own historical keepers shelves up there.
That's so funny. I do have a question. So this Earl of mine, whenever I talk about the plot, people are like, that's Shanna. Have you read? Was that an inspiration? It's definitely.
That was a nod to Shanna. No, yes, and it was. It was a deliberate nod to Shanna because I read Shanna years ago with the whole Wood-a-Wisp when I first got into historicals, and it was so bonkers. In the same way that Joanna Lindsay plots are completely bonkers, and no, I liked it, but it was a little bit too rapey for me. And if you read I mean, I think we've moved on in 25 years of historical. So I just thought the premise itself was really fun. The idea of just marrying some guy in Newgate and then them turning up. But that's as much as I used that plot kind of idea, and then it kind of went in a different direction. But yeah, no, you're right. It was a definite nod to Woodward, with less kind of rapiness in the coach, which I think is what happens. And then on the island and everywhere else in the pirate ship. And you know.
Shanna was a very wild ride. So I'm happy you didn't go to those lengths.
I think I've still got it on my shelf. I have to say. I'm a sucker for the old school, like proper body stripping covers. So I think I've got that one, which is like tropical with all the flowers and that's windswept.
Yeah,
it's all good.
One question that I have that I ask every historical romance author is, what got you into writing historical romance? Like, why this genre?
Well, my background's in historical stuff because I spent 15 years as an antiques appraiser and an auction. I had an auction house and stuff like that. So I kind of know, I've touched a lot of historical items, so I kind of know the things that encompass the Regency. But I was just a massive reader. I mean, I did English lit at university and then always loved reading. Historicals were always the escape that I needed. I started with like the Harlequin Mills and Boons were my like, gateway drug, and then it just got worse and worse from there. And yeah, then it was the Joanna Lindsay, and I think Julie Garwood was some of the others I read, which I love. And then one day I'd read a book. I wish I could remember which it was, but it's probably good I can't. And I threw it across the room. Literally, I was so annoyed. I was like, that was so crap. I've just wasted, £5 of my good money on it. And I mean, I could write better than that. And my husband literally just went, yeah, but I bet you won't. And talk about a bet. I was like, well, I bet you £1 I will, because we were still in England. And he's like, well, I bet you £1 you won't. And so I was like, right, just to spite him, I was like, right, I'm going to write this book. And it can't be the worst book ever written, because the worst book ever written is this one that got published and I've just thrown across the room. And if it's better than that, then I win my £1. So I did. It was just kind of an exercise to see if I could do an 80,000 word thing to finish, which was Devil to Pay, which I'd kind of had thinking about in my head for a while.
Oh, wow.
So I did it and got super lucky in that won a contest, and the finals judge was my eventual editor at Random House, and they offered me, they actually said, we love your style, we love the writing, but we literally can't sell a medieval Italian Renaissance book, so would you think about writing a Regency? And I was like, yeah, I'll write anything you like if you give me a publishing contract. So that's how it started. I just sort of fell into it. So the rest is history. I mean, they still like what I'm writing, so I'm going to keep doing it.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's not the normal route for most people. I mean, I feel bad that I never had like massive slush pile horror stories and stuff, because a lot of people did. I just got ridiculously lucky with a unicorn of an agent and an editor. It was great.
That's so fun. Did you then always plan on indie publishing as well as traditionally publishing? Like, how did that come about?
Well, the first 3 books I did for Random House were on their Love Sweat line, which they were kind of just a start when they were going into, they called it digital first, which theoretically was going to potentially then get turned into a print run, and kind of never did. So it was ebook only. So that was that Secrets and Spice series, was digital only. And then in the end, when I wanted to do a print book deal as well, then I got a better deal offer from St. Martin's. So I then defected to St. Martin's and eventually got the rights back for those first 3 and still published those. And then by that point, Devil to Pay was still sitting there as a complete manuscript. So I thought, okay, well, I can indie publish that. But and the novellas I put out are indie ones. But generally, I'm still, I write very slowly, like 6 months a book, which is, I know, some people write really fast. All my indie friends are like, I can do it in 2 months. But it takes me about 6 months. So that suits traditional, release schedules. And for my life, I've got 3 kids and a dog and stuff going on, and I can't really write any faster for now. So it works pretty well. Yeah.
That's fun. I like that. Are you planning on, so you don't have any like soon plans on doing anything indie, just focusing on?
Oh, I have a couple of things in the works. I've got, because anytime anyone asks me to be in an anthology, I literally can't say no. So there's I've got a paranormal historical coming out for Halloween next year, and I've got a Duke in a Box, which is exactly the Saturday Night Live parody that you expect it to be, which is going to be a ridiculous Duke anthology coming out. I can't remember when that's out. I think that's November this year. So I've got a couple of new ones coming out that I've not written yet. I've got vague ideas in my head, but yeah, that will be coming out as indie ones too.
What creature is the paranormal one?
Well, it's like a witch's ball. The only kind of idea they've given us is like it's a witch's ball. So it's like a Regency or a historical witch's ball. So I don't know quite. I kind of like the idea of maybe somebody who touches stuff, and when you touch a historical item and you can see the history of that item or something like that, that's kind of what's in my head. But that could very quickly change, because paranormals have so much more fun. Honestly, I'm stuck with actual factual Regency, but I just you can get out of anything. Like I could make a vampire duke or something. Part of me would love to just go completely bonkers. I may well do that. It would be brilliant. Or a time traveling duke or something ridiculous.
Yes, we would love that.
I did pitch once a quantum leap in the Regency, which might be my quantum leap nod, because that might be quite cool. Yeah, maybe I'll do that.
That's so funny, because I know you mentioned Kerrigan Byrne, and I've been on a couple live shows with her, and she said her Victorian Rebel series started out as werewolves, I think. Like she wanted them to be like werewolf historical. Chrissy, is that right? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Highwayman and all of that. Is that the Highwayman in that? Wow.
Yeah.
I love those. They're so good.
And I'm like, give us the historical werewolves. We want.
Yeah.
So this is the thing when you pitch, like if you're traditional are very difficult to sway to do anything different than what already works, and they're like, well, it only sells because that's all you're providing people with. So if you it's such a lot of money involved that is very dangerous, which is why you can take those risks in your indie stuff, and why people like indie Katie Roberts and people are just killing it, because you've got the freedom to do what you like. But you don't have that framework to support you of having those distribution deals, and it's as an indie very hard to get into Target and Walmart and stuff. So it's like a numbers game. Do you play the game or not? But that would have been so cool.
Wow. Yeah. Like I don't know who traditional publishing is listening to, but we're the readers and we want that stuff. So
the paranormal. I'm looking quite forward to that. That should be fun to kind of go a bit nuts.
Someone asked what story will be in the Sunflower Season anthology.
Oh, well, that was put together so last minute. I was talking to Lenora Bell, who's another author friend, and she asked if we would do a collab and do a joint story together. But we both ran out of both time, and because there's 70 authors in that anthology, we could only do the tiniest. So actually the one I was going to give was way too long. So actually, I think Promise of a Kiss is not even Promise of a Kiss. I think it's even shorter. It's the Midnight Clear is the 3000 Space Force. So that's going to be in that anthology. Sorry, I will do a joint thing with Lenore at some point for something else, because I love her and I'd love to. But I was gutted. Yeah, and we ran out of time because it's out in like a few weeks. So that's going to be that one. More or less.
So do authors? How do anthologies come about? Do you someone have an idea and then they just like ask friends to join in?
Yeah, it's a bit weird. Like, I mean, we're on a lot of kind of author chats and groups on Facebook and social media and stuff. And usually it's people you've met and sort of interacted with personally. Like, very rarely will somebody just out of the blue say, hey, I love your stuff. Which would be great. I'm here. Julia Quinn, if you ever want to do it, I'm here. I'm never going to say no. But usually it's just people noodling around and saying, I'm thinking of putting this together, and do you want to do this? And especially if you fit style wise. So there's a few people that are quite similar to your style that you'll have a crossover readership. So yeah, that would be good.
Well, that's fun. I love hearing how authors are friends with each other, because like Lenora Bell, I love her books too. So it's just like, it's so cute.
We fangirl so much, it's ridiculous. Like we're just silly, normal, geeky people, really. So I just got back from Paris. We did the rare book signing in Paris the other day. And speaking of Julia Quinn, I mean, there was Julia, Erica Ridley, me, Tessa Dare, and we were all in a row, and then there's Evie Dunmore, and so all of us were in a row, but everyone had to walk past all of us like mere mortals to get to Julia, because they'd put her at the end. So Tessa and I are next to each other and just like giggling like idiots, like, and then we all sat at the same table for lunch because we share a French publisher, and we're just sitting there going, this is just ridiculous. Like, we're just here hanging out with Julia Quinn. It was cool.
Oh my gosh. That's
That was your
crazy.
chance to do the anthology idea with her.
All right.
Yeah, she was stuffing myself.
I'm sure she's busy.
Worst networker ever. I'm too embarrassed. I think I accosted years ago when I was just starting out. I met Courtney Milan at one of the big I think it was RT before, in Vegas, or one of those really big ones before it all got shut down. And I literally, I think I kind of fangirled in this elevator, which was so embarrassing because she couldn't escape. And I was like, I love you so much. Please read my books, and I'm really historical too. And she was just like, clear, this poor woman just wanted to get out with this mad girl. And just, sort of edged along the door and like didn't say anything. And now I've seen her several times and she kind of avoids eye contact. So I probably sorry, what you can see this. Sorry. Still love you.
Glad to know we're not the only fangirls out there, because we do that with our favorite authors. So
it's funny. Normally, I don't really fangirl. I think the only person I really fangirl would be somebody like Loretta Chase or Laura Kinsale, just because I just want to get inside their brains and know how they do what they do, because they're so good.
That's true. Speaking of rare, are you doing any US signings?
I am in 2 weeks. I'm up at Chicago. I'm doing the Spring Fling in Chicago, which is the 30th, Saturday the 30th of April. If you're near Chicago, come say hi. I will be doing Historical Romance Retreat. That's in San Diego this year in September. I'll be at Mink if there's a book signing. That's also September. So yeah, a few. I was going to do Buns and Roses in Texas, but that's gone virtual again this year because that's normally in either Dallas or Houston. But that's still virtual, sorry. But if you want signed books, you can probably just send me an email and I'll sign them and send them to you. So whoever that was, Book for Romance, sorry.
How many signings do you normally do in a year?
Well, I haven't done any for the last 2 years because of COVID. It's been miserable. So maybe like, it's however many I can persuade my husband to look after the kids and the dog for, really. I mean, I go like 8 times a year, probably. Maybe 4 or 5. I do the Writers on the River one, which is relatively local here. That's in July in Peoria, Illinois. And the Chicago one is pretty close to me. So yeah, maybe 5 or 6 in a year. I'm booked to do the Rare London and Florence next year in September back to back, which will be just an excuse
to travel.
I mean,
the Rares look fun.
They are very good. That was my first one, the Paris one. And they're doing a Melbourne one, but I just can't justify that. It's an incredibly long flight and really expensive. And I think I've got like 3 readers in Australia. So that would be like a lot of money just to say hi to 3 people and then fly home. So yeah.
But at least you got to go to France this year. That's really fun. I think they have Scotland as well coming up too. They're all
Edinburgh, which again, it's so close. It's fairly soon. I don't think I could go back. I think it's next month, isn't it? May? Maybe.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it is May. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of travel. I mean, my parents and my family are still back in England, so I mean, anytime I go back there, I've got to forced to. I'll have to go and see them if I'm in London. There's no excuse. They're only like 20 minutes away. So a bit rude. My mum was going to meet me in Paris actually, and then she just, I've got 3 other siblings, and 2 of them then that weekend said they were expecting a baby, so they clearly got all the love. And she's like,
wow,
having a baby shower instead, and we'll see you some other time. I'm like, oh, sit here in Paris on my own.
With Julia Quinn, it's fine.
It was fine. I had a lovely time. I hang out with Amanda Boucher, who is fantastic, talking of non-historicals, and Annika Martin. Have you read her Billionaire's Call Girl, which is brilliant?
I've not read that.
Oh, it was really good. Billionaire's Wake Up Call Girl or something. That was what it was called. Like the assistant has to wake up the boss at like 5 a.m. to get him up. Well, I can't remember how it convoluted. It was really fun. It's worth reading.
Yeah.
Annika Martin.
Okay, I think I've heard of the author, but book. I'll have to look it up. With historicals, one of my favorite another favorite question to ask is, what are some of the most interesting things you've had to research for your historicals?
So much
'Cause I
stuff.
know it's a long process.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my plots come from real historical, stuff, because I'll read some ridiculous, I'll go down some research rabbit hole and find something so stupid, like, I mean, this Earl of mine was Regency submarines, and I was like, I did not know that existed, and how cool, and who knew? But also, that's like history Kate is loving that, and then romance Kate is like, oh, that's a really small space to squish two people together in the dark, like you can really get them squished together. So that kind of comes together quite nicely. So I don't know. I mean, I just noodle around for ideas until I find something that's really cool. Like the Cachanel was the real theft of the French crown jewels. That was what inspired that. So that was a true story. Reckless Match was more like the feuds of like the Hatfields and the McCoys or something like that. I just love the idea of these families. I mean, not quite so bloodthirsty, like they actually went around killing each other properly for like decades. But I like that idea. So yeah, quite a lot. I mean, it's easy to get lost in the detail. At some point, you have to just stop and start writing the book, and just because a lot of it doesn't make it into the book. Like you'll do a whole day going down some stupid rabbit hole, and then you'll get one sentence out of that, and nobody cares about that sentence. By then, it probably gets cut, and you're like, no. I did have an argument in the last book with my copy editor, who said I couldn't use, they use the word for like an orgasm, which is like le petit mort, the little death. And she said this really detailed, like little line thing, which I'm not sure they said that till the Victorian era. I'm like, I'm sure they did, and it's fine. And we're all hundreds of historical people say that, and yes, we're keeping it in. So that was an interesting one. Defending the use of, Regency orgasm terms was one you never expect to be doing as a historical writer. But it's never dull. That's what never dull.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. And do you then like do a lot of your research before writing? Do you find yourself doing a lot of research while you're writing? Like, do you have a process you use?
Oh, process sounds too organized for the crazy haphazard nature of what I do. I have a rough plot outline, and so that there are, like with, the theme of it and how that ties in with what your characters do. So like, if they're an archaeologist or they're a spy or, a Bow Street runner or something like that, that sort of ties in. And I suppose I do a little bit of research as I go along, like if I need it and I think, okay, well, I don't know what the term for a naval officer in that thing is, then I'll just spend a few minutes looking at that. But generally it's all done beforehand, because I need to have a rough idea of what I'm going to be talking about. And I've sort of plotted out there. I'm pretty rough with plotting, but I have like 4 or 5 major scenes that I know are going to be in there. And I sort of shuffle them around a bit till they look in the right place, and then I just start writing. But I'm not a plotter particularly. I know a lot of people are way more organized.
Yeah. Does that mean, have you ever been like super surprised by a book you've written then, and like where it's led you, since you don't really plot?
Not so much, because I know the end point and I know some scenes,
Okay.
but how you get between the scenes. Sometimes you'll think, well, I know I want to have these 2 scenes, and this is like the low point, and this is where we've got to end up. And sometimes getting into those, you'll have this idea for a really great scene that you're just like, oh, that's so perfect, and I hadn't thought of that before, but yeah, that's going in. So yeah, some.
Do you what do you do if you get stuck then? Like if you're like, I have no idea where to go from here? Do you ask friends? Do you do something to
It does help talking stuff out, like especially if we do road trips. My poor husband knows that I just will talk at him for about 6 hours straight, and the kids are all in the back watching their DVDs with their ears on, and he's got very good at just listening to me try and say, well, so if they do this, then they would have to do that, but then we've got to end up over here, so how can they? And literally he just like, yeah, and at the end I'm like, wow, you've been so helpful, we've cracked it. And he's like, yeah, I did nothing, but well, you talked at me for 8 hours. So that's usually, I would kind of talk it through. I've got a couple of author friends that I would kind of bounce things back on, and because we all understand plot and structure and stuff, so usually somebody can say, that's not working because maybe you should tweak it or switch that or something. So we all help each other out.
I love you have your little sounding board that doesn't actually say anything back.
Yeah, he's useful that way. He's an engineer, so he's very logical. Like my brain works in a completely different way to his, so we're the perfect kind of opposites. Literally, like couldn't be more different. Like he's so clever. Yeah.
I think we skipped this at the beginning. We both said our favorites. What is your
Yeah.
favorite?
What's my favorite? Well, I do have a soft spot for Hester and Harry, which is Promise of a Kiss, because they were just such fun. I literally giggled throughout the whole time of writing that book. And some books come a lot easier than others. You know, some you get to the end and you're like, wow, that was fun to write. And others, there's this hideous like between 35 and 45,000 words when you're right in the middle and it's just like it's never going to end and you just don't know why you even chose this as a stupid book and it's stupid. Everything's stupid. That's when you really question whether you love anything about it. I have to say I do quite like Reckless was quite fun because it was the start of a new series. But the one I hate to tease you, but the one I've just handed in, Wicked Game, was really fun. Paris was fun because it was outrageous. And she was my first non-virginal heroine as well for Daring Pursuit. But this one is Wicked Game is fun because they're the end of the 3 couples of that series, and so they go all out, and the betting is just so much fun in it. So I had a lot of fun. I think your favourite book is the one you've just finished because you're so relieved you got it done. And then the next book will be my favourite because I'll be on to that next. So, yeah.
Is there a reason it's only 3 in your series?
Just, I think because, again, going back to traditional, it's easier, I think, to pitch instead of book 4 in a series, people are reluctant to maybe pick up book 4, whereas they'll usually pick up book 1 in a series. And I think when they're selling to Walmart and Target, it's easier to pitch a new series. But you will notice that there is one spare brother, Reese, who's dangling, and I couldn't leave him, so I couldn't resist putting a tiny little bit in the epilogue, which leaves space, shall we say, because the 2 aunts who are horrible, you know, the idiot aunts who just like who can't resist. They say to him, "Oh, I bet you think you've got away with it because you know you're the only unmarried Davis who escaped." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm home free because there's no unmarried like Montgomery girls anywhere." And they're like, "Oh, yes, they are. They're coming back from the side of the family we never talked about because they're so scandalous, and they're on their way back right now from South America." So I've left it dangling that he at some point will maybe meet the twins.
You'll just tease us.
No, there's Lenore, who's the older girl, and the 2 twins who are so naughty. So potentially, if I ever get the chance, I would love to write that as a spin-off series of those the lost Montgomery girls who have been out catching butterflies with their lepidopterist father in Brazil for the last 10 years.
Ooh.
Oh my god,
sounds fun.
Yes, they will not be the new series. I'm going to pitch a completely different series, which the current working idea is I think it's like Charlie's Angels but in the Regency, if that makes any sense. Or like, did you ever watch maybe Moonlighting, or I'm proper 80s, like Remington Steele, kind of that kind of thing. You're probably too young to even remember that.
I have not.
Oh my god, that dates me really badly. But yeah, I think that's the kind of thing I'm thinking of right now. It's a kind of detective agency and the guys show up and ruin everything as always. So that's the rough plot of the new series so far.
That's so fun. That kind of reminds me of like with all the hijinks and stuff. I feel like this one's the one I hear the least people talking about of yours because everybody loves book 1. And I mean, everybody loves book 3 too, which I love book 3. But this one is so fun where she's the jewel thief and he's like kind of falling for her, but he's like, wait, you're the one that's on the wrong side of the law. And like, I like that whole like kind of spy thing, but I mean, like they're not spies in here.
The dynamic on that was the most fun, like, because that's the point. They're definitely on the opposite sides of the law, so it's really difficult. Like, how are you going to get them together? And that full sex scene where they finally get together was really awkward because it's like you don't want her to feel obligated or under pressure because he could arrest her, but it was really tricky. So I hope I got the balance right on that. But that was really fun because, they just love to tease each other. And it's played out in such a public arena. So everyone's seeing her humiliate him, which was just gleeful to do. So, to be fair, they're a good couple too.
Yes. I mean, all your couples are great. But
right.
What draws you to Enemies to Lovers then? Because you write it a lot, which I love. And I think everyone loves Enemies to Lovers. But
I suppose because they've got it's an obvious inbuilt conflict, and there's such a long way for them to go in terms of character arc. Because I mean, if you're friends for lovers, that's usually a bit sweeter, or it's not quite as far a distance. Whereas enemies to lovers is you've got to make them really change and get past that point and get over all those obstacles to get to that whole point. And even when they get to the lovers part, that's usually when it all starts to go wrong anyway. So you've got to end up being the happy ever after that. That's kind of the tricky bit. But yeah, I think the next one's going to be, I'm going to have a new series will have a widow. She's a virgin widow, if that makes any sense.
Ooh.
Husband died on the wedding night.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
So yeah, she's probably the only virgin widow in London. If I get my way, this may not be ever made because if I pitch it and they don't want this series, then it's just going to float around in my head forevermore. But yeah, I like, because I've never done a kind of widow, slightly older heroine. And yeah, I've got a couple of ideas. I like the Pygmalion kind of My Fair Lady trope. That's quite a good one. Best friend's sister is always, I've done best friend's sister before in Raven's Heart, but I might do that again because that's always a fun one to do. So what are your favorite tropes? Like, what do you want me to write? Like, now's your chance. Come on. What do you want to see more of apart from paranormal dreams?
I don't know. Christy, do you have one? I need to think.
I know, that's tough.
It is. I guess bad boy. I mean, opposites attract is another one. Like the bad boy, when you've got somebody rich and then a bad guy, like a Kerrigan Byrne does that incredibly well. The kind of wrong side of the tracks hero.
Yes.
I like instead of just the friends to lovers, like the childhood friends, and then they like something tore them apart. Like now they're enemies, and then go back to reunited lovers. Like I love that because they have so much history built in.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was looking at the plot of Somersby, the idea that you get somebody return from the war and you don't know if they're like your husband or not because they're not quite right. Are they the guy? So that's kind of an interesting one.
The second chance,
second chance romance is quite good.
I don't think you've read any cinnamon roll heroes that I've read.
I think my guys are like beta. They're not alphas. They're certainly not a-holes. They are I can't write a-holes because I just don't find that overly bossy, take charge, attractive personally. I love reading it, like in other dark romance. I think it's great, but in real life, you would batter this man over the head with a lampshade. I mean, couldn't take it. But it's fun to escape into. So yeah, cinnamon roll heroes are kind of cute. I suppose, is that like Colin Bridgerton, like in Bridgerton? You know, there's just a nice guy who's there's a few of those. I like the kind of hot but stupid as well. Loretta Chase does that really well. They're just this gorgeous lump of stupidity. And
what are those? Is it like himbo? Is that what those are called?
Yes, I kind of like the guy in The Mummy. I mean, he's just he absolutely says he's not the brains of the outfit, which is such a great trope to just love. Himbos. The idea that they think the heroine is the cleverest thing in the room and they're just fine with that and they'll just lift heavy things and fight stuff for her. That's kind of really attractive.
One of my all-time favorite historicals is This Earl of Mine by Lorraine Heath. I don't know if you've read that. But it's his twin brothers who dies. It's his wife that he falls for.
Yes.
I love the you were married to my sibling, but now I want you. Like that angsty is my favorite.
Oh yeah, because there's so much conflict in that whole, I suppose it's the forbidden, forbidden love. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, a few people have done the whole married to the best friend and then the best friend dies and they take over as well. That's good. Class difference. Thank you, Monica. That's a good one.
I love class difference too. Yeah, Julia Quinn, When He Is Wicked has that, where it's his cousin / best friend, like his wife dies. Yeah, not his wife. He dies and he gets with his wife. Yeah.
So every so often, when we're messing about in our author groups, somebody will pitch something really stupid. And I don't know, we were talking about Survivor and the title Desert Island Duke popped into my head and it will not leave. And I have no idea what that book looks like, but I just thought that would be brilliant. The idea of some Duke washed up, being utterly useless and not even be able to do anything. And then obviously the heroine's super capable and makes fire and catches things. And he literally can't even tie his own shoelaces. I just think that would be brilliant. As a plot.
That would be fun. Like the nursing back to health thing. Yeah.
But I guess then I suppose the flip for the second half would be when they're rescued, she's the one that's like the fish out of water, and he's the one that has to kind of help her through that. So that would be a nice balance, because on the island he's utterly useless, but gorgeous to look at. I mean, like, beautiful eye candy, but or he pretends to be stupid just to get her to do everything, and that would be an even better trope, because then she finally realizes that he's perfectly capable of doing it and he's just playing her, which would be great. I don't know, I might read it. I might write it in a dull moment. Desert Island Duke.
The possibilities are just endless.
I know. I've got too many stories and not enough time. That's the problem.
Oh yeah, see? People want it.
Yeah, I would buy that.
What are some of your favorite then historical romance authors or books? You've dropped a few titles.
So many. Yeah, I mean, Laura Kinsella, I've mentioned before. Shadow Heart's one of my favorites, even though it's super dark and ever so slightly maybe rapey. But everyone loves Flowers from the Storm from her, but that's not my favorite at all. And I've got probably most of hers. I think they're really good. My first ever, I kind of Judith McNaught. I still like some of those. Connie Brockway, yeah, As You Desire is a definite favorite, because it's so funny. It just subverts all the tropes of every trope, you know. Lord of Scoundrels, Loretta Chase, that's a brilliant one. Who have I got on there? Yeah, I'm trying to think. I love Anne Stewart. She's kind of not often mentioned, but she does really great dark kind of alternative heroes that you think, how on earth can she make me love this guy? And you do, and they're all awful, and yet they're so good. Lisa Kleypas, Devil in Winter is definitely up there on my keeper shelf. That's a good one. I'm trying to see who else I've got. Judith Ivory, Beast, is another really weird one. Have you ever read that one?
I have that one, but I've never read it.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I think it's Judy Cuevas that she used to write as, and then she was Judith Ivory as well. And it's such again, talking of unusual settings, that is based on a steamship, and it's like a Beauty and the Beast. The hero is a French aristocrat who's like blind in one eye, and he's not apparently supposed to be good looking, but he's that kind of not good looking but ugly but really sexy, and she describes it so well, like Vincent Cassel, you know, that kind of, he's gorgeous but he's sexy but he's not good looking, and she's the spoiled American heiress, and they have this tryst on the boat, each of them thinking, or she thinks she's just having a last fling before she marries this ugly guy when they arrive in France, and he knows exactly who she is, and just thinks he's bedding his own wife, and then they get her, and it's so good. I won't spoil the rest, but it's so well written, and it's so hot, it's so sexy, it's brilliant. So yeah, thumbs up for Beast by Judith Ivory.
I did not know that was the plot of that book.
That was really good. Patricia Gaffney did one as well with two thieves called Crooked Hearts, or something like Broken Hearts, and they're both she's a con man, and he's a con man, and she's a con woman, and she's dressed as a nun and he's dressed as a stagecoach driver. It's ridiculous. I love, can you tell I love the stupid plots? Yeah, that was favorite.
We have a question of, have you read any Cat Martin?
Oh, Cat Martin. Yes. Yeah. That's some of the earliest ones I read. I think I might have some up there, but I can't remember the titles. Her covers were always gorgeous. She had one with like a blue gown with a big sweepy sash, I remember. Oh gosh, who was the really, I'm trying to think of the really, Catherine Coulter, that's dating me as well. I used to all the Catherine Coulter, that was really early on, that got me in. Yeah, they're kind of old school now, aren't they?
Yeah. Have you always then read historicals, or do you remember when you got into them?
I got into them at university, so I was like 18, 19, as an antidote for all the depressing literature I was reading for my coursework, which was like Russian and, you know, Thomas Hardy, Rowan Dies. And that was, I'd read those texts, and then I literally would need something as a pick-me-up that was completely, you know, escapism and guaranteed happy endings. And yeah, that's where I fell into it and never left. Like, it's my home now. I don't ever want to leave.
Someone asked about Devil's Bride by Stephanie Lawrence.
Yes, that's in the Sinister series, isn't it? Sinister series, is it?
Yeah, I think it's the first one. Yeah.
Yes, and everyone often cites that as one of their favourite by her. Yeah, he's quite an alpha hero, isn't he? That's it. But he like literally sees her and I'm gonna have her, and is that the one where she finds somebody in a lane?
Yes, that's
yeah.
dying.
It was kind of wild.
Days numbered. There's some like injured guy in a lane or something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read that for years, but it's clearly stuck in my head because that's still the scene that stands out.
Someone asked if you could have a book or series adapted to screen, which would you choose? And would you want it to be series or film?
Ooh, gosh, I like the idea of a film. Actually, my sister happens to be a screenwriter, so she is actually turning Steal a Heart into a screenplay as we speak.
Oh wow.
Which would be fun. But the trouble is, historicals are always really difficult to pitch for TV because they're so expensive. And especially now when we've had Bridgerton, I think their budget is completely blown for the next 10 years. Because you have to have all those settings and the clothes. You can't literally just walk into somebody's high street and film people in normal clothes. And all my stuff are kind of kick-ass adventure as well. So it's like a cross between like Count of Monte Cristo and Bridgerton and everything else in the kitchen sink. So I like to think that I would have something done at some point. I don't know which would be. I guess I think you're right. Catch and Earl, the Jewel Thief one would be actually really fun. That's kind of Mission Impossible style Regency heist, isn't it? So, but then you get thinking, who would you ask to play for your leads?
I was just going to ask that.
I never have specific actors in my brains or people in my brains. A lot of people do. They write with like a Pinterest board open of people. But I've got like a general mashup of hot guys and girls in my brain that are like, yeah. There's plenty of hot people that could play any of those characters. I will take any of them. Who's the guy that plays? Oh, I can't remember. Have you seen Shadow and Bone? The guy who plays the dark. I cannot remember his name.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh yeah.
What is his name? Ben Barnes. Is his
name? Yes. Yes.
I've loved him since Starlight or whatever it is. The Stardust. What's the film?
Yeah.
Their Days.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Me too.
He's got even better as he's got older and more growly. And,
right.
So yeah, there we go. I do have someone specific in mind apparently, which is Ben Barnes. There we go.
Call up Ben Barnes for this project.
Call me, Ben. I will pitch it to someone.
I'm hoping though that because of Bridgerton, they'll want to adapt more. Because we have 1,000,001 Jane Austen adaptations.
Yes.
Which I mean, like I love Jane Austen, but like how many Emmas do we need?
I know, it's when you think of all the amazingly cool stories that there are out there, and it's box office gold. Like there is The Lost City, the Sandra Bullock.
Oh yeah, that was so good.
Hilarious one.
So good.
I'm going to see it tomorrow. Don't tell me. But you know, romance sells, right? We're a $1.3 billion industry, and yet we get the worst rap ever. We're not taken seriously. We're not proper literature. And you're like, well, what else is a comedy? What's a rom-com or, you know, a comedy drama show if it's not a romance with a happy ending, like a feel-good? Any of these shows, they're all scripted in the same way that a novel is scripted. So, I think it's crazy. And yeah, there's so many. I mean, at least things like, a lot of the YA books that are like Shadow and Bone are coming to that screen. Game of Thrones sort of was, but I've shipped every character in that, and I've rewritten all their happy endings in my head. Sansa's going to end up with a hound. You know, everyone's going to end up with the person they should end up with. No one's dead. So, yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it? I mean, there's so much potential out there that isn't just the kind of Christmas hallmark, very you know, more than the sweet stuff. I mean, every time they've done it, it's worked brilliantly, you know, when they take a risk. But again, it's all about risky money, I guess.
Yeah. Of the books that you've written, which one was the hardest to write for whatever reason?
Oh, hardest to write. Actually, any of the novellas, because it's really hard for me to write short just because I want to put in a hot sex scene, and it's really hard to get people, even if they know each other like early on in the book, it's really hard to get to that point in 30,000 words. So that's the kind of constraint of the size rather than the difficulty in writing. So yeah, I guess, yeah, that was probably it for Promise of a Kiss. You know, it promised so much more, and I suppose I would need another 10 or 20 or 30,000 words to kind of really flesh that out into full novel length. That would be good. But no, they're all hard. Like in the saggy middle, they're all hard, and you just have to plow through. And the more books it doesn't get any easier. Every time you start a book, it's like you've never written a book. You can't remember how to do it. You've assumed there's got to be a middle and an end at some point. Like honestly, my brain goes out the window, and then I just pretend I'm not writing a book. I just pretend I'm putting a few snippets of information in a Word file and maybe a snatch of dialogue that's going to be a funny scene, and then it kind of keeps going. And eventually you end up with 30,000 words, and then you're like, I'm a third of the way, I've got half a book already, I'm nearly there. And then it starts to turn into a book. So I never really write a book. I just write a very long series of notes that turn into a book. That's the way I fool myself into doing it. Otherwise, if I just sat down and went, chapter 1, that would be horrible. I'd never start. It would be bad.
Do you have one that then was like really easy to write?
Some are easier, yeah, some are easier than others. So actually, yeah, the one I've just finished was because I'd left it really late, and I'd had a month off for Christmas. I got to England, and so normally it takes me at least 4 months full to write a book. And I told my publisher 6 just to have that wriggle room. But I was left, and when I actually started, I had 3 months left, which is for me ridiculously short. And so I was freaking out a bit, and it just came out. So I think third in series is always easier as well, or because you already know the world and you know the characters, and you haven't had to do the world building. So you like, and the extra characters already had their own book, so they're already there just as a supporting cast. So you kind of have to, it's a lot easier. You're already in the middle of it. I guess, yeah, first in series is harder because you are trying to create that world and introduce all these new characters that are eventually going to get their own story, and you have to hint that they're going to and leave some breadcrumbs, but not too much for them. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot. I never thought of like how much you actually have to put into the first book to build up everything else. So you leave those little crumbs for them to want to pick up the
because
other.
you can't go back, because it's 18 months, by the time it's like films, you finished, like literally book 2 in that series is out next month, and I've just handed in book 3. So I've kind of forgotten book 1 already. So then to kind of have to go back and make sure you've got enough links and stuff and Easter eggs and stuff in the others, there is some planning to it. I'm not a complete pantser. Like there is, it's not just luck. So some of it comes together eventually. Some of it is just luck, But yeah.
Do you have a book that you would recommend people start with if they are new to you?
Ooh. Any of the first in series, I suppose, because that kind of gets you into the worlds. Devil to Pay is a funny one because that's just literally a standalone medieval, which doesn't really link to anything else, but it's fun. He's my most alpha hero, if that's what you like. Just because he goes around bashing people up with swords, you can't help it. But so does she, so they're a good match. I guess Reckless is quite fun. I mean, all my stuff's quite light and kick-assy and girls with cool skills. So I mean, if that's sort of my vibe, is badasses in bodices. So any of them would do, and they're all kind of standalone. I mean, you don't need to have read any book in the series. I mean, it's preferable to read them in order, just because there are recurring characters and a few little things that carry through. But maybe start with This Isle of Mine, if that's the first in the Bow Street series. That'll get you in. Read any of them. I'm just happy if you read any of them, honestly.
I do. I think I recommend that series the most whenever I chat about your books.
Bow Street. It is fun. Those 3 boys were fun to write.
And
that's where I started.
So pretty.
Yes. Those were John Paul Ferrara, who does the most gorgeous covers ever. And it was when I first started out, I had literally had his covers on Pinterest board saying, these are my dream covers ever. And then when they actually sent me, this is like your first John Paul Ferrara cover, I was like, I was so excited. Yeah, that was cool.
So you have a few, like you have your Egypt one, and I'm sure do you have other ones in different countries?
The Secrets and Spies series, the first one's in France, the second one's in Spain, the third one's mainly in England. I've got, the Russian one's a Russian princess, but she's in London, so that's not really in Russia. And part of me is too lazy to do all the research that involves an entirely different country. I guess, Devil to Pay is Italy.
Yeah.
Is there a location though you would like to write at some point in one of your books?
Yeah, definitely, like probably more Italy, because I love Italy. That would be pretty cool. I've never, I don't think Scandinavia. I've never been, and it seems cold. So maybe somewhere warm. I mean, again, I pitched one ages ago, which was in South America. I was like Brazil, Amazon rainforest, properly crazy, desert island Duke. Nobody seems to get it. So yeah, maybe like a tropical island. That would be brilliant. 6 days, 7 nights, kind of. I don't know, shipwreck. Something crazy would be really fun to do.
This one kind of is also with my next question. So Tori asked, would you ever write a Gilded Age romance? Or would you write Gilded Age? Would you write other time periods? I know you have medieval, but
Yeah, I'd love to write other time periods, definitely. Joanna Shoup is doing Gilded Age so well. I would never write a historical, like a Western, just because I am clearly very English and I don't know anything about that. And I would be called out every other page for something historically inaccurate. Gilded Age is nice just because it's that, again, that age of just crazy wealth, excess, you know, entrepreneurs, you've got robber barons. It's really cool time in history. I might do Victorian, because you can go a little bit darker and a little bit grittier and a bit less on the manners with Victorian, like Kerrigan has done. You know, there was a lot of craziness. They tend to be more like historical murder mystery kind of things that end up in Victorian. But George, I'd like Georgian too. Georgian is just nuts, like massive wigs, and everyone's, I mean, they were so much less restrained than the Regency's very uptight. Like Victorian's uptight but secretly pervy underneath, but Regency's pretty tight. But Georgian, they're nuts. Everyone's sleeping with everyone and marrying everyone else and getting away with it. So that's kind of Vanity Fair, kind of Becky Sharp, War and Peace kind of stuff. That would be really fun to do too. Never say never. And Roman gladiators, clearly. I need to write at some point.
We want the gladiators.
Hot men in leather. You know? What's not to laugh? Right.
Do your characters match your covers?
Just about, yes. I mean, we fill in a style sheet which is like eye color, hair color, roughly. So the book that's Wicked Game, he's a sea captain, and they've got him in a naval uniform, which I've no idea if it's accurately correct. It doesn't matter. It's gorgeous. It's a man in a naval uniform and a gorgeous dress. So yes, yeah, they're generally about right. I mean, they're never exactly as you've got them in your head. The same way an audiobook does. I can't listen to my own audiobooks because they just don't sound like me.
Oh, really?
Which are great. I mean, Beverly Crick does an amazing job. But it's just not how I would have intonated it, or I just know. 2 minutes and I'm like, nope, I'll just keep it in my head, thanks.
Let me know if anybody in the comments has any last minute questions, because we are coming up on an hour. But a common question I also got was, who's your favorite character you've ever written? Which I know is also hard.
Well, I have to say, I do quite like Emmy. She's the Jewel Thief is fun. But also, and I think this is my most underrated book, Sabine, who is my counterfeiter from Counterfeit Heart, because she's really resourceful and she's sassy, and I don't think that book gets that much love, really. And I love that. I think she's a great character. So maybe that one's, maybe Sabine, my counterfeiter, because she's not even that remorseful. Like, she knows she's doing a bad thing and she loves it, and she doesn't even want to be good. Like, she's a bad girl through and through. I like it.
Someone did ask, do you pick your audiobook reader? I'm assuming that's the publisher, right?
Yes, for those ones. The Secrets and Spies series are just about to go into audio, and I had a say in that. And there is an audiobook actress who's going to do those, who's called Marnie, who's brilliant, who's going to be really good, and she could do all the different foreign accents, which is brilliant. But no, my publishers chose Beverly Crick, who's done the last 6 of mine. I think she did the Bow Street and Ruthless Rival series, I think. So yeah, it's kind of, it is nice to hear your own words like out there, but it's not in my voice. It's and I would never do my own audiobooks because that seems like way too much work. And
Oh yeah. When is that other series coming out on audio?
It's just gone into production now, so I'm guessing it's not going to be that quick. Maybe 6 months. I will post about it, but I'm looking forward to that. That's really horrible to do for audio because I didn't realize when I wrote it, but that's like the first one's French characters with a half English, half French hero. And at some point they are French, but pretending to speak really bad French because they're Italian. So, I mean, how hard is that for them to like...
A lot of work.
And I literally thought of that when she said, "Oh, I'm delighted to be, narrating your audiobooks." I'm like, "You just wait till you see." I'm so sorry, like in advance. I apologize. I never thought it would be an audiobook, so I never thought about someone having to say these crazy accents out loud. But good luck with that. Sorry in advance.
Someone asked if you would consider writing in dual POV.
As in male and female? Do they mean? I normally do alternate points of view, as in I normally get a chapter from the hero or a couple from the hero and then one from the hero. I would never do, I think, first person, just because historicals don't lend very well to that. I think it works really well for YA and contemporary and stuff like that. But historical's really difficult because you're trying to describe a lot, and you also want to see what each side is, which you can do in first person, but I guess it doesn't come naturally to write first person, so I wouldn't do that.
So I thought we got both of theirs, but I guess that was third person following each of them. Yeah.
You're in their head.
Yeah.
In a sense. So you're getting, you're in their head, in their point of view, but it's not a first person. I look at her and,
right.
Gosh, she's gorgeous across the ballroom kind of thing.
Do you want to give a quick pitch of your new book coming out soon so people know what it's about?
Ooh, I don't even have an arc. I haven't even got the cover, but a Reckless Match is the first of the series. So what's the next one? I'm terrible with titles.
Daring Pursuit.
Thank you. I've just finished Wicked Game. I'm like already on the third book. Daring Pursuit is book 2 in my Ruthless series. And that is Caris and Tristan, Tristan's super uptight architect, and Caris is this out there RuPaul of the Regency crazy girl, and that's a kind of enemies with benefits kind of sex bet kind of thing going on with that one. So that was fun to write. So I think you'll enjoy it. I hope you'll enjoy it. And that's out on next month, 24th of May. I've got my calendar out there. And then I'm also in an anthology, a charity anthology called Sunflower Season, which has got 70 historical romance authors, and that's out. You can pre-order that now, and all the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds, are going to humanitarian relief in Ukraine. So please buy that. Just for it's like $7.99 for 70 stories, of which I think, one of mine is in there. That's the oh gosh, I'm terrible with my own titles.
Midnight Clear.
The Russian Midnight Clear. Thank you. I had a glass of wine. So when I write them, they don't have those titles. The titles already changed. So for me, that's Anya's story, which then turned into Midnight Clear. So the titles bear no resemblance to what's in my head. So yes, that's the anthology that would be coming out in mid-June, June 7th, for that Sunflower Season. Which is nice. And that's it for me. Like, there's a few anthologies coming out. Duke in a Box is coming out fairly soon as well. And then Wicked Game will be out. I haven't got a definite date, but probably just after Christmas. So very early 2023.
Nice.
And I'm doing the cover reveal next week, and it's so gorgeous.
We can't wait to see. We have both read A Daring Pursuit, and we loved it. So.
Well, that's Welsh set. That was not exactly Regency ballrooms either, because I get a bit sick of Regency, and it's been so done, and we've done almost everything in a Regency ballroom that can be done. So I tend to like the different settings. And
I love that. Whoops, sorry.
No, that's fine. My parents.
I loved that it was set in Wales.
It was fun. I mean, it's like I choose the weirdest places. Like they end up, most of that book is in a cave, which is like, who wants spelunking in the historical romance? But for some reason it ended up like that. So
But I feel like a house party is always the perfect setting for historical romance, so I always get excited when they're at house parties too.
Yes, and when you've got two rival families who hate each other stuck at a house party for a
Yeah.
week, I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster, isn't it? So
Yes. All right. So make sure you guys check out Kate Bateman's new book coming out next month.
yeah.
Loved it. Thank you everyone for joining. We had such a fun chat about historicals. Now I just want to go and read them all more because that's all I want to read right now.
You've got the Monty seal of approval. Look, there he is. Look how exciting I am to my family.
So cute. All right. Well, thank you everybody, and we will see you later. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.